Hello, hello, hello. It is Shantae again from Stitching Hearts Embroidery. And today we are going to talk about my newest design. This design is pretty simple. It's a baseball bag tag, but this design is pretty special to me because I feel like when I was making it and even now, it just reminds me of exactly why I needed to learn to digitize. I had a request for this design from a patient of mine, and as soon as he asked for it, I had this vision, this idea in my mind of exactly what I wanted this tag to look like. And so first of all, I'm not just out here just trying to recreate the wheel and it's already there. So I looked around for bag tags. And I found some. I found, some good bag tags, but they weren't exactly what I had in mind. So I wanted my laces to be a little bit rounder, not like square tips. I wanted them to be equal. Like the idea in my head was this. I wanted a nice wide satin stitch with a top stitch on top. And so as I was looking, I found a tag that had a nice satin stitch, or I found a tag that had the laces that I needed to do some other things too, to make it what I wanted it to be. And so I just decided, you know what, I'm just gonna digitize this tag. And so that's what I did. And so just that I remember when I would send something to be digitized. And I hope anybody that's digitized for me like 5-6 years ago are not watching this, because I would send back for so many edits. I would say, hey, you know what? Can you make the line just out just a little bit? Or could you make it stop over here? Because then when it does this, so all the way from the beginning, I just always had these thoughts or ideas of how I wanted my designs to be. And so I had gotten really good at stitch editing, because sometimes after 2, 3, 4 edits, they would get sick of me and, be a little slow to respond, or, have a little attitude. And so, yeah. So anyway, this reminds me of why I needed to learn to digitize, because I had an idea of what I wanted, and that was it. And I just wanted this to be exactly like this. Not anything unusual. There's probably someone say, "Oh, that bag tag is somewhere," but there were just these things that I wanted to be a specific way. And so I want to first. I also like to always, or my goal is always to share my designs and the how-tos for them. I think it's so helpful, because even like as somebody digitizing, we don't all think the same. And so my idea of how I put these steps together, although I try to stay very uniform with like the standards, just kind of how everyone does it, but it's not always that. And so I like to, or I plan to, my goal is always to go over my designs, how I thought them out in my head, or how I practice stitch them, or how I digitize them. And then it's up to you. Like when you get this design, if you do it a different way or use a different material, that's wonderful. Share it with me. But for those of you, especially new in the hoop embroiderers, I think it's helpful to have some of the how-tos. And so first off, we're just going to go. So here's my design. I pulled it in from my, just the folder on my computer. And we're going to go up here and we're going to look at the stitch simulator first. And so I'm going to click on there. It's that button with the line, blue line going across it. It looks like a needle and a line. And so I'm just going to drag it instead of letting it play out. And so this dark blue line is the tack down stitch. That is the stitch that's going to stitch on your stabilizer. That's going to show you where to lay your first piece of fabric, your panel. It's going to be the front of the ball. And so I took a piece of white marine vinyl and laid it over this circle. And then I let it run around twice to tack that vinyl down. The next thing I did was I allowed the laces to stitch. And so they went all the way across. And then I inserted a name. And so that's kind of what I came here to talk about today, is how to put the name and how some of the ways, there's so many ways you can shape your letters, but how I shaped the letters to fit across the, let's see, like right across here. And so after I put the name in there, then I laid a piece of craft foam on the back. So I took the hoop off the machine. I didn't take my design out of the hoop, but I removed the hoop from my embroidery machine, flipped it over, laid some craft foam and a piece of marine vinyl, or sometimes on the back I like to use waterproof canvas so that it's just not so thick or tough for my machine to go through. So it just depends. But so I laid those two pieces on the back, taped them down good, and then I ran this stitch twice around there to stitch it down really good. And then I removed it from my machine, flipped that over, and I used some super sharp applique scissors, and I cut as close around the line as I could on the back, flipped it over on the front, cut as close around the line on the front. It's basically the same line. And then I put it back on my machine and allowed the satin stitch to run around there. And then I gave it this top stitch. Now, when you are making your ball, you are more than welcome to leave off that top stitch if it just does not suit you. And so I like to make the top stitch a different color in the design so that you have the option, you have choices that you can take it or leave it. And the same with this the hardware placement hole. Many times I've gotten designs and it will be the same color as the last stitch. So like it would be yellow or green. And then I have to go through some things in order to either change the color of it because I wanted a different color, but I often just delete that altogether. I will kind of bend it up and measure the mark and punch a hole, and I like to use eyelets and like metal hardware. And so it's a different color. I just leave that off. And so that's it. Your bag is done, or your tag is done. And so the thing that I said we really came here for is to talk about lettering. And so all you need is essentials to do the lettering that I'm going to share with you today. I was going to use an envelope, but in order to make your own, you need Stitch Artist 1. And so we'll do that on another day. So for today, we're just going to bring in some letters. So I clicked the A. They came in right there at the bottom if you look over in the objects panel. And I'm going to move them down right to about the center. Come on, don't slow down on me. I'm going to make them a little larger. So that is a regular block font that comes with the Essentials software. I'm going to choose a font. I think I know what I want. I love this font called Wiggly Worm. And so there it is. I'm going to use the word or the name Aaron. And so I typed it in the box and I'm going to say enter. So there is my word, my name. Right in the center, I can see that it's going to overlap on my satin stitches. So I'm just using the bounding box that's around it to pull it in some. And then I'm centering that right back in the middle. Now I do see that the name is overlapping on my stitches, and it's okay. I kind of want that because I want the sides to be out. So one way that we can fix this is these squares, they operate each letter, right? And so if I click on this R, this top one moves everything up and down. There's a top, well, I'm going to call that an arrow or I'm going to call it an arrow. I've heard it called something else before, but I can't think of what it is right now. And then this bottom one moves everything to the right of the letter in unison, like together, so that it's a better chance of keeping your letters right. But you can also see that the bounding box is right around the letter R, and so that means that I can manipulate just the R. So there, I made that, I caught the top arrow instead of the middle square. Okay. And so one of the things that I can do, let me choose it again. I'm going to choose this A, and I can make this A larger, wider. It's only affecting the A because that's where the bounding box is around. And then I can do the N the same way. Make it taller and wider. And then the A here, make it a little shorter. So this R would really have to be squeezed in. And then the O. And so that gives a little of the appearance, let me make the whole thing smaller, of that the middle letters just being squeezed in. It's just the simplest thing that you can do. If you have a good eye for it and you manipulate those letters a little more, then, you can come out with a good result. I'm going to go back. I'm going to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Uh-oh, it has to catch up. So I'm just trying to go back to the beginning. I could just delete this and start over. So there, we know this is the beginning. So I'm going to bring that in. One thing I'm going to do, I'm going to use the space bar, the space button or slider to bring them in a little bit. So instead of just squishing them down, bringing them in, there looks like a little bit more room to me between the O and the R. And so I think this looks pretty good. I'm going to make it larger because I'm thinking of the side letters. I'm bringing that in a little because I don't really want it on my satin stitches, but I do want it to be as tall as it is. And so this is just an artist's choice. You choose how you want these letters to look. So the next thing, I'm going to go right down here. So if you see these two, the one says top and one says bottom. So the choices are curve, grow, peak, or shrink. I usually use curve. So I click curve and something happened. I'm not sure what. It looked like they moved. But if you take the slider and move it over to the right, it curves the middle up. If you move it to the left, it's going to curve that middle down. If you curve it and you just want it back to normal, if you hit the button on the end, it just resets it to default. So I like the curve going down right there. And then for the bottom, well, let's look at some of the other ones. So there's grow, and grow makes that end a little larger and this end smaller. And if I grow it to the right, it, changes that. So this looks like a megaphone. So if you were doing something like that, you wanted the words to go out, then that would be a good one. So let me go back to the center and then peak. Let's see what peak does. Peak goes up and down in the middle. To me, peak and grow look very much the same. So let's see if if we can figure it out. So peak, I'm sliding it back and forth. Okay. So let's put it back in the middle and let's do curve. Peak and curve seem the same to me. The curve is a lot more. I wonder if I curve it there and then I peak. I don't know. So I usually, let's see, I'm going to use peak today. So I'm going to go peak for the top. I'm going to move it to the left. And then for the bottom, I'm going to say peak and I'm going to move it to the left. Yes, also to the left. And so there it is. Looks like my R looks distorted. And so there it is. And so it's just a simple thing, but depending on the name, it can really make your design look so much different. I think what I'm going to do is try some different letters. Let's do Charlie. Let's bring them in so that we are within the satin stitch, and then let's go in a little bit more. And so that's what it looks like when both are peaked to the left. Let's see what it looks like when we curve. Oh, wow. When we curve them both to the left. Well, that was curve and peak. Oh, no. So curve, but curve can't be that much. Actually, it looked better peak at the bottom and curve at the top. Like that. So the box is still around it. That E is just kind of wild and big. I'm going to bring that down a little bit. So again, this is all artistic choice. It is your plan. It's your decision of how you want these letters to look. But I was just trying to share with you about using these handle controls over here and using just some regular fonts in your software. And so it's word spacing. We only have one word. So why is that even doing anything? Because we are not spacing any words. So I'm just going to put it back. So we have space. So that's spacing of the letters. And then we have slant. That would slant them either way. Let's bring it back to 0. And then we have top and bottom. So I use curve. I don't know, that bottom maybe should be like that. So I kind of like that. The E again looks taller than the C to me. And so I'm bringing that down. And so that is my word. That is it. That's as simple as it is. We are just using what is in this software to fix these letters. Now you could do them one at a time, just clicking on the squares and making them, bigger and shorter and wider. Or you could use these top and bottom. So while we're here, we can also add a little bit of satin to it if we feel like, I feel like white vinyl or white faux leather stretches. And so sometimes when I'm stitching, I see gaps in it because the stitches will stretch. So we can add a little compensation to that too. And look, that beefed up the letters just a little bit. And that's it. That's the whole thing. So we have changed those around. I'm just thinking if we wanted, so let's see. I was going to turn it on its side and make the word go this way, but that word is way too long to do that. So let's just go back. Yeah, that's me doing too much. So, and the last thing. So the letters are here and we really need them to be right either above the laces or below. We just want them somewhere before we tack that back on so that when you look at the back of your tag, you're not seeing all of the bobbin, the thread, that it's neat, that it's either I would use some foam and a baseball cotton. You know, I would fuse something to the cotton because I love fusing stuff to cotton and just making it like stiffer. So I might even do that. I might use like I could use a Dodgers material on the back or something, you know, maybe just depending on the team that you're doing this for, or just a generic baseball design. I have some sitting out over here. So foam on the back just gives it a little bit of thickness or puffiness. I often will put foam under the front, but then your letters have to stitch through that foam. So it really depends on your machine. And then sometimes it'll really dent in a lot. So it just depends. Like the sky's the limit to all the options that are available. But if you just put that foam under the back, no extra struggle for your stitches, and it still gives it your bag tag some puffiness. And so then I would, you know, you'd have to cut around those. Oh, I was trying to say where we put our word. I forgot. I was off on a tangent. And so this is the back panel, this stitch that you see. And so this name needs to go right in there. And so it's highlighted. I'm going to click on the word and just slowly drag it up until I don't want it to be above the line for the laces, just kind of right under it. And I'm going to release my left mouse button because I clicked on it and drug it up. When I release it, I just hope that it went the right place. And if not, you can always back up over here or move it back, you know, get it back to where you need it. And so we're clicking on this and we are dragging it right under the laces, not going above that line because then it'll stick it right up there. And it's in there. So now when you go to your machine, you're going to have placement, tack down, laces, the name or the team or the number, whatever you put in there. And then we have the back panel, cut around it, the satin stitches, the decorative stitch, and the hole or the placement for the hardware. And that's it. So that took me almost 30 minutes. It's just, I tried to do it really quick. I was probably a little repetitive. Excuse me for that. But I will see you guys again really soon. I have quite a few designs that I need to catch up with and make these videos for. And I will see you guys later. Enjoy. Bye.